All right. So in our previous class, remember we managed to cover the first part of our variation, introduced and talked about all the typical variations that we need to understand in our examinations that we are going to be having, from direct variation up to the partial variation. So we are going to have a continuation on this question that we are having, starting from this question, and see if we are going to be able to finish up everything that we are given. So if we are to consider this question that was from June 2016 paper, that was question number 2, whereby we are given the mass, take note, the mass m grams of a solid is inversely proportional to its volume, which is given as V cubic centimeters. So we are talking about mass in grams, and also the volume that is in cubic centimeters in this case. So we are simply given the letters in this case. All right, we are simply given the letters. I'm just gonna have this as a continuation. I think that was now at question number 14. I don't know. So this is m, which is the mass that we are given. So we're considering the letter m. Remember our inverse, we said we are going to have 1 over for the inversely. So this is inversely proportional to the volume, 1 over the volume, which is given as V. So the question here is to find the formula connecting M and V. So take note what is connected here. It's M and V only, given that we've got the values in this case. So meaning to say we are going to write this in terms of the constant. We calculate the constant since the constant is not involved on our question in this case. So remember, on our inverse variation, the constant multiplies the numerator. So it's going to be K over V in this case. To find the formula connecting the mass and the volume, we are supposed to obtain the value of K from the given information that we have here. Given that, we are going to apply the information that we are given. M is 3.5 grams. So check also the unit. This is grams. Our mass is also in grams here. So meaning to say we're going to use this as it is. So 3.5 is equal to K over V, which is the volume in this case of 4 cubic centimeters, volume cubic centimeters. So the units in this case, they are actually okay. So what are we going to do to find K? We can cross multiply since this is the same as over 1. So we are going to apply our cross multiplication. K, 1 is going to multiply with K. So 1 times K. In this case, we are going to obtain K, which is 4 times 3.5. So there we are supposed to multiply. If we are to multiply 3.5 times 4, this is all right. So this was actually paper 2. So we do not need any for us to do this. Use your calculator direct. We are supposed to obtain a 14 in this case. All right. So that's a 14. So having the value of the constant is not enough. We are supposed to substitute back our constant because we need the formula from this formula that we have here. We are going to substitute our K. So therefore, we are going to have our M, which is equal to K, that is 14. So in place of K, we are going to substitute 14 over the volume that we are given, which is V. So that's the formula at the end, connecting M and V in an inverse way, as we see V in the denominator there. So that was the first part. And the second part of the question was to find M when V is 6. So on this condition now, it's a condition. Already we have the formula that is connecting the two variables, that is the mass and the volume at the same time. So it's a continuation from that formula that we are given, which is connecting the two. So meaning to say, our item 2 in this case, we are going to obtain, we are going to have a continuation from the mass that we have, this formula between the mass and the volume. So the question is to find the mass. So meaning to say we do not have this M. So M is going to be equal to 14 over V, which is our volume, and our volume we are given this as 6 cubic centimeters. So what we are going to do is to simplify. So we are going to obtain our mass as, if we are to reduce this by 2, that is going to be 3 by 2, that is going to be a 7. So that means 3 into 7 is going to be 2 in this case. 3 into 7, that is 2 into 6. We have a remainder of 1, so it's going to be 1/3. So that is the mass. Remember, the units of mass here is supposed to be in grams. So that is going to be 2 1/3 grams in this case, right? Which we can write as a decimal. From this part, we can have this as 2, instead of having to write it as a remainder as 1/3, we can divide now to say 3 into 10, which is going to be 3 into 9, remainder 1 into 10, again 3. So you're going to have 2,33333 and so on. So that means we're going to have at the end 2,33 kgs if we are to write as a decimal, or you can simply leave your answer as a fraction, because yes, paper 2, so any part using your calculator. All right, so that is it for this part. Then we move on to the other question, whereby we are given this time, given that u varies jointly as x. So here we've got a joint variation. It varies jointly as x and as the square of y. So this part here is connected jointly. We are not given the inverse part, so that is connected jointly, but in a direct manner. We are not even told about being inverse, or it's taken as a direct. We are supposed to be actually told that it is, yes, it's a joint variation, but connected how? Direct or inverse? So in this case, when we are just given this varies jointly as this, we are just connecting them in a direct manner. So how are we going to connect these in a direct manner? It means our u varies as x, so it varies as x, and at the same time the square of y. So the square of y, that means y to the exponent of 2, y to the power of 2. We are just connecting them direct like that. All right, so the first question is express u in terms of x, y, and a constant k. And a constant k, the constant is involved in this case. So meaning to say we are going to have this u being equal to introduce the constant in terms of the variation, where there's a variation. So k x y squared. We're supposed to end there. The question is asking us to write u in terms of 2, write a formula connecting u, x, y, and a constant. So the constant is supposed to be part of your solution. That is, you're done. You move on to B, find k. That is the question, find k. Given this information, we are supposed to find now the value of k from where? From this equation that we have connected in terms of the constant. We can substitute our values in this case, whereby u is given as 14. So that means we are going to have 14 is equal to k times x. Our x in this case, that's a 1 times y squared. Y squared in this case, which is 2 squared. So we're going to have 2 squared. So that means 14 is equal to 1 times 2 squared. 2 squared, that is 2 times 2, which is 4, times 1, which is 4, times k, which is going to be 4k. So we are going to obtain 4k in this case. So 14 is equal to 4k. You can divide by 4 so that we obtain the value of k in this case. That was the whole situation here. So meaning to say our k at the end, if we are to reduce here by 2, that was paper 1. All right, so let us just reduce here by 2. That is going to be 2. By 2 here, that is going to be 7. So meaning to say k is 7/2. So you can have your k as 7/2, or as a mixed fraction 2 into 7, that is going to be 3 into 6, having a remainder of 1. So it's going to remainder 1/2, or as a decimal, it's going to be 3,5. So we can also have this as 3,5. So that is the the value of K in this case, all right? So after, the question is just to find the value of K. We know that in an actual sense, we are supposed to substitute back here, but the question is not asking you the relationship. It's a stage that you are supposed to answer. You end at that stage. Another part now, it's a continuation, which is the C, whereby you are now asked to calculate the value of U given these values of X, the value of X and the value of Y. That is where we are supposed to substitute back now from this equation that we had that connects K. We have to substitute the value of K that we obtained as another item, not as part of C. This is item B. So we are considering our item C now. This is the item C, whereby we are supposed to substitute first the constant before attempting the question. It means U is equal to the constant. The constant is a fixed value. It does not change. This constant here is not going to change. So we are going to have any of this. We can use this or this. So it's best for us to use an improper fraction for further calculations. When you are having further calculations, it's best for you to deal with what? An improper fraction. So U is equal to K, which is 7/2 XY squared. So that is what you are supposed to have first. Then you consider now the question. What is the question here on C? The question is asking us to calculate U, given that X at that moment is 6 and Y is 3. So we are simply substituting now. In place of X, we are going to substitute 6. In place of Y, we are going to substitute 3. So it means U is equal to 7/2 times X. Remember, X is 6 and Y in this case is given as a 3. Y is equal to 3. So that is, we are going to substitute Y squared. So it's going to be 3 squared. This is Y squared. So it's going to be 3 squared like this. All right. So these are most part that you are supposed to consider on your simplification. So here you can simplify further. As you can see, you can reduce 2 into 6 here. That is a 3. All right. 2 into 6, that is a 3. And here 3 squared, that is 3 squared. 3 times 3, which is 9. Don't mistake to say 3 times 2 is 3 times 3. 3 is multiplying itself 2 times. So this whole part is going to give us a 9, 3 times 3. So we are left with 7 times 3 times 9. 7 times 3, which is 21. So we are left with 21 times this 9. So if we multiply by 9 here, that's going to be 9 times 1, which is 9. 9 times 2, which is 18. So meaning to say here we are going to obtain 189. That is the whole idea. That is the whole idea of your simplification. As you can see, the part of substitution also plays a part in this case. It plays a role in your simplification. The part of substitution, just substituting and making this the subject of the formula, it's also part of your simplification as you are dealing with the variation. So what is important is that answer the question as it is given. Yes, you know the stages that you are supposed to take, but is it required on that particular question? If not required, just answer the part that is required for that question. You move on to another part, but not forgetting the stages that you are supposed to follow under variation. After finding the constant, we are supposed to substitute the constant, but it's on the other item or on the other question according to what we were given in this case. So that is what I'm trying to say. You are supposed to use the information as given on the question. All right, then we are given another question, November 2016, question 9B, which is paper 2 in this case. All right. So they were given a worksman weekly wage is made up of a fixed weekly wage. Let us be specific here. There is a weekly income in this case. All right. This weekly income is made up of a fixed, this value here, it's a fixed weekly wage, meaning to say it's a constant, this one, it's fixed, it does not change. So we've got a constant. And the overtime wage, so there's an overtime wage which varies directly as the number of hours. So this overtime, it has to be affected by the number of hours of overtime, but directly affected. What type of a variation is this? This is a partial variation. whereby we're saying the worksman weekly income is partly constant, because this one we said it's a constant fixed wage, it's a constant. So if you're considering partial variation, you can consider the constant as H. At the same time, and the overtime, which varies directly as the number of hours. So meaning to say, we are going to have another constant affecting the number of hours. In this case, maybe a constant is K, affecting the number of hours. So depending with the letter that you're going to use for the number of hours, it means that constant is going to multiply the number of hours. So that is a partial variation. So on this case, you are not even given like what is representing the weekly wage. It's up to you to just note on your information. Like we can just say, let the weekly income first, let the weekly income be equal to what? Be equal to W. You can just choose any letter for the weekly income. Let me just use W in this case. So is made up of a fixed weekly wage, a fixed. This one is a constant, something that is fixed does not change. So that's a constant. So it's H. So the fixed weekly wage. So we've got a fixed weekly wage in this case, which is our constant. So this one, we said it's a constant, which you're gonna just use constant H. Remember, we talked about the constants that are used under partial variation. We've got H and K, but you can use any constant of your choice. All right. So now, and the overtime wage, which varies directly as the number of hours. So meaning to say K is representing the overtime wage in this case, which is a constant. They're saying the overtime wage, which varies directly as the number of what hours. So the amount that is paid per hour, which is the constant, the wage, the overtime is not changing. It is affected now, the amount is affected by N, the number of hours. So this K is a constant again. It is not changing. The amount later there is going to change because of the number of hours. So this K is the one that is representing what? The overtime wage there, and saying the overtime wage, which varies directly as the number of hours. So we've got the overtime wage in this case, overtime wage. Okay, let us just try to have it properly here. So we have got the overtime wage, which is a constant again. So we're gonna just use K for that. This one is also a constant, affected by the number of hours. The total now is affected by what? The number of hours of overtime, which is, we said here, N. So we're gonna use the number of hours as N. All right, so we've got number of hours, which is, we are going to use that as N. So you choose the letter so that when you are considering now, it does not affect you. So here we are going to simply connect. Since we have these letters, we are going to simply say the weekly income, which is the weekly income, is W. So W is equal to, it is made up of what? A fixed weekly wage, which is a constant H. So it is equal to H plus, and also the overtime, which varies directly as the number of hours. So I said the overtime is K, so it's gonna be K times the number of hours, like this. So this is a partial variation. We are given sum of two parts in this case. All right, so the question now is, if you work 6 hours overtime, his weekly income is 96. If he works 8 hours overtime, his weekly income is 103. Find the worksman fixed weekly wage. So the question is to find the worksman fixed weekly wage. And we said our fixed weekly wage is what? It's H. So the question here is asking us to calculate H, the constant, not to find H and K, no, just H. Answer the question. The fixed weekly wage. The worksman fixed weekly wage is represented by what? By H. So we are simply calculating H. So what are we going to do with the information that we are given? We are going to substitute here. Remember, on the first part here, we are given if you work 6 hours overtime, the number of hours is N. So we are given N. His weekly income, the weekly income is W. So we are also given W, which is 96. So W here, 96, is equal to H plus K times N. N, the number of hours. The number of hours there is 6. So it's going to be 6K. We have substituted the first information. We move on to the second information. If he works 8 hours, we are given N, the number of hours. His weekly income, the weekly income, which is W, is 103. So W in this case is 103, given that N, the number of hours here is 8. So we are going to have plus 8K like this. We have formulated 2 equations that we are supposed to solve. And of these 2 equations, our question is to calculate what? H. Calculate the fixed weekly wage. Yes, you can find the value of K, then you substitute to find H. But the question here is directly mentioning that we are supposed to calculate the worksman fixed weekly wage, which is H. So the question here is simply saying find the value of H. So if you are to find the value of H, then consider that value of H only. Yes, you can use whatever way that you want, but we can simply eliminate K. Since K is not involved, we do not need this value of K. We can simply eliminate that K. So we are going to simply eliminate K. How am I going to eliminate K? I just have to make sure that these 2 numbers are the same. I'm supposed to make these 2 numbers to be same. The coefficient of these 2 numbers should be the same. So you just interchange these numbers, 8 and 6. So on top, you are going to multiply by 8. So this equation here, we have got 2 equations. Equation 1, we are going to multiply on top. We are supposed to multiply here on top by 8. We multiply this one by 6. We interchange these numbers so that they will be the same. But if we check 8 and 6, these 2 numbers here can be reduced. So if the 2 numbers can be reduced, you can reduce them. So if we reduce by 2, this is going to be 3. By 2, this is going to be a 4. So instead of you multiplying by the bigger number 8 and 6, you can reduce these numbers, multiply by 4. We are now working with the smaller values. So it's going to be 4 multiplying everything on top. We want to eliminate K, remember. So we multiply everything on the top equation by 4. So it's 4 times 96, which was going to be 384, which is equal to 4 times H. That is going to be 4H. Then 4 times 6, if you multiply 4 times 6, that was going to be 24. So we are going to have 24K. All right, we move on to 3. 3 is going to multiply 103. So 3 times 103, that is 309. 3 times 3, that is 9. 3 times 03. But this is paper 2, so you can consider using a calculator. All right, now we multiply again throughout by 3. 3 times this H is going to be 3H. Then 3 times 8, which is going to be 24K in this case. So as we can see here, these 2 equations that we have, on the K part, we are having the same value. So it's not just using those values that you are seeing here. You can reduce these values, still you obtain the numbers that will be the same here. So now we can eliminate K. How are we going to eliminate K? We have a positive. We are simply going to subtract here so that we get rid of this K. So if we subtract the second equation from the first one, 24K minus 24K gives us a 0. So meaning we can eliminate this K. All right. But the sign affects everything. So it's going to be 384 minus 309. So this is going to give us 75, which is equal to 4H minus 3H, which is going to give us H. So this one, 24K minus 24 eliminates. So meaning to say H is 75. And what we need is to find there is H, because we are talking about what? The fixed weekly wage. And we said the fixed weekly wage is represented by H. So by finding this value of H, we have already found the what? The weekly wage in this case. So therefore, the fixed weekly wage is going to be what? Therefore, the fixed weekly wage in this case is going to be 75. Therefore, the fixed weekly wage is $75. Remember, this is the amount in dollars. So we are going to obtain $75, or you can write even 75,00 if you want to write in terms of the amount, but still it's fine because here these values were given as whole numbers. So you can just maintain also your answer as a whole number, which is fine. So that is how they might play around here. They will be trying to play around you guys with on time. They know that you do not consider the question. You just solve your equations. You solve for K, you solve. At that time, you're busy solving for K. It's issue of time, the time now. Yes, it's fine, but you have to be careful on that because exam also is the issue of time, time management. So, but I'm not saying if we were to calculate the value of K, then we use that value of K to find H, it was not going to work. No, it was going to work. But we can consider direct our question. Our question was to calculate what? The value of H there. All right, so that is it. Let us see the other part of our question. Now we are given that it is given that Y varies directly as the square root of Z. So this one is a direct variation. So that is now, I do not know this, I think it's number 70 now. So we're given that Y varies directly as the square root of Z. So this is the square root of Z, Z under the root sign. So the first part of our question here is to write down the equation connecting Y, Z, and a constant K. So the constant is supposed to be part of our question. So meaning to say A, Y is going to be equal to, remember we introduced the equal sign with the constant at the same time, the square root of Z. You are done. That is the question A. Question B, find K. We are now finding K. This is now B, item B. So we are starting from where? From this relationship that you already have. Remember, to find K, we are supposed to substitute the values that we are given here, the value of Y and Z. So Y is given as 3. So 3 is equal to Z, in this case, it's 4. So it's going to be the square root of 4 times K. In this case, whatever that we get here, you multiply to K. So under variation and other, the square root of a number, yes, we know that is plus or minus, but under variation, this part does not affect us. Just take the positive value. So 3 is going to be equal to 2 in this case, all right? So take note on this part that I'm explaining to say we're supposed to have the square root of a number as plus or minus, but or this part does not affect. So we're going to use 2 times K, which is 2K. So divide by 2. That means we are going to obtain the value of K. So K is going to be equal to 3 over 2. Or we can have this K is 1.5 or 1.5 as a decimal. So now we can find C, the C part, find Y, given that Z is 16. We know that we are supposed to actually have this K as part of our question, but on item B, it was only to find the value of K. You are supposed to end at this stage, finding the value of K, you end there. Now, in order for you to have Y, that's where you need the value of K, because you know that this one is supposed to be connected with a constant, this equation, the K that we had before. So meaning to say Y is equal to, first substitute the constant. Our constant is 3 over 2, the square root of Z. So we can substitute. What is the question now? After substituting the constant, that's where you consider it's to find, we are supposed to find Y, given the value of Z that it's 16. So we have the value of Z. So meaning to say Y is going to be 3 over 2 times this one, 3 over 2 Z means we are multiplying here. So it's times the square root of Z in this case, whereby the square root of Z, the Z there is given as 16. So we are now substituting the value of Z that we are given. So at the end, what are we going to obtain? We are going to obtain 3 over 2 times the square root of 16, which is a 4 in this case, all right? So we can reduce, this is same as 4 over 1, so we can 2 into 2, that's 1. 2 into 4, that is a 2. Then you combine the numerators together. So that is a 3 times 2, which is a 6. So you're going to obtain y as 6 over 1, which is a 6 in this case. That is how you attempt this typical question. So that was the whole idea of this part that we are seeing on this question here. All right, then another part, again, it's a direct variation. If you check here, m varies directly. So this is already we are given the sign. Okay, they are just right. They are writing directly here, which is the same condition when you are given a sign, or they can write it directly like that. So they are saying m varies directly as, or is directly proportional to d minus 1 squared. Already you are given this as d minus 1 squared. It means the square of d minus 1. They can write in words as the square of d minus 1. The square of d minus 1 means to the power of 2. The square root of d minus 1, that is the square root in this case. All right, so in this case, it's the square. And we are given this information, m is 14 and d is 4. Calculate m when d is 7. This part cannot be calculated without the constant. That is what we know. We need the constant. We can't just calculate m here given the value of d, because we do not have a relationship between these two. For now, we are just saying these two can be connected, but with what? There must be something connect, which is the constant connecting these two, m and d. So we are supposed to introduce the constant. So m is equal to k into d minus 1 squared, which is not enough because we need to know the numerical value of the constant. Which information now are using? The first part, given that where you are given this information that is complete, the value of m and the value of d at the same time. So m there is given as 12. So that means we are going to substitute 12 is equal to k into d. Our d is given as 4. So it's going to be 4 minus 1 squared. So meaning to say here we're going to have 12 is equal to 4 minus 1, that is 3, then squared. So 3 squared, which is 9. So we are going to obtain 9k. So simplify properly. Do not square 4 squared minus 1 squared. This is wrong. To square this part like 4 squared minus 1 squared. This is wrong. You simplify inside the bracket 4 minus 1, which is 3. Then whatever that you get there, you are going to square it. So to find k, simply divide by 9. Both sides, since we are multiplying. So that means our k is going to be what? At the end, if we reduce by 3, that is 3 into 9, that is 3. 3 into 12, that is going to be 4. So meaning to say k is going to give us 4 over 3. This is not part of our question. It's needed. The k that we're having here is just needed for us to now to calculate m when given the value of d. We must have a relationship that is connecting this m and d only. That means we are supposed to substitute back our k. So m is going to be equal to 4 over 3 into d minus 1 squared. So we are going to have this as d minus 1 squared. We have to substitute the value of k into the what? The given equation here, so that we have a relationship between the two variables only, d and m. These are the only two variables that we see. So we can calculate whatever from this relationship. So the question is to calculate m given that d at that moment it's a 7. So it means d is equal to 7. So when d is equal to 7, it means we are going to have 4 over 3 into d, which is 7 minus 1 squared. So from this part, we can obtain the value of m. So it's going to be 4 over 3 times 7 minus 1, that is a 6. So we're going to have that 6 being squared. So 6 is squared, which is 36 in this case. So here we are going to have 36. We reduce, that is 1 into 6, which is 2. Then we can multiply 4 times 12. That is 48. All right, so this one is going to give us a 48. That is the whole idea of this typical question. So as you can see, we were supposed to calculate first the constant from a relationship that we have. In this case, we introduce the constant with an equal sign. We calculate the constant, substitute back the constant, then consider now the question when you have the constant here. That's where you have to consider what is the question about. It is to calculate m given the value of d. Now you have to substitute the value of d that you are given. So that is the whole part of your variation technique. Then given that y is inversely proportional to x minus 1 squared. So as you can see here, we're also given the same format, but this time it's an inverse. The previous one, it was a direct variation, but this time we are dealing with an inverse, but with the same concept of a square. So we are given that y varies in this case inversely, that is 1 over to what? To x minus 1 squared. So that is to x minus 1 squared. Given that y is equal to 2 and x is equal to 7, so the first part of the question was to express y in terms of x. Not with a constant, but y in terms of x only. So meaning we are supposed to calculate the value of the constant. In this case, we are supposed to determine the value of the constant first. So y is equal to the constant on top. So it's constant over x minus 1 squared. From there, we can calculate the constant y. We are given y when x is equal to 7. So you're simply going to substitute now the value of y that you are given 2 is equal to k over x in this case, which is 7. So you're going to have 7 minus 1 squared. So that is going to be 2 is equal to k over 7 minus 1 squared. We simplified this previously. That is 6 squared, which is 36. So we can find the value of k. How are you going to find the value of k? You are dividing this side by 36. So how are you going to remove the 36? You simply have to multiply by 36. You also multiply by 36, or you can cross multiply. But here you can say we have the value of k. So meaning to say k is going to give us what at the end? 36 times 2, which is 72. But that is not the question. The question here is to express y in terms of x. What is wrong with the first part here? It's the constant that is also involved. We are having another letter instead of these two, y and x. So thus finding the value of k, we are going to substitute back into this part. So therefore, from our item A in this case, so this is actually our item A, y is going to be equal to the constant. That's 72 in this case. We're going to have 72 over x minus 1 squared. So this is going to be x minus 1 squared. So that is the first question, which is our A. Then B, calculate the value of x given now. It's easier for us to obtain this value of x now from this information because we now have a relationship that is connecting the two variables, x and y. So it means this one is simply a substitution that you are going to take. And take note here, we're supposed to calculate the values, not a value, assuming they are supposed to be 2 or more. So the values of x, given that y is 8. So in place of y here, we're going to have 8 is equal to 72. So we are going to have 72 over x minus 1 squared. So that's it, x minus 1 squared like this. We have formulated an equation that we are supposed to solve now for x. So the question is now solve for x from this. How are we going to solve for x? We can try cross multiply here. This is ms over 1. Cross multiply so that can get rid of the fraction. So if you cross multiply, it's 8 times this whole bracket is going to be 8 into the bracket of x minus 1 squared, which is equal to 72. Take note, yes, we can expand your bracket and multiply by 8, but if we are to consider the 8 is not part of the bracket, it's not even inside the bracket, it's multiplying this bracket. So you can get rid of this 8 by simply dividing by this 8 both sides. The moment we divide by 8, we are left with a bracket of what? Of x minus 1 squared, which is equal to, on this part, if we divide by 8, it means we are having 72 divided by 8, which is going to give us what? Which is going to give us a 9 in this case. So here we are going to obtain a 9. This is what we have. We are no longer, the variation part here is no longer a part of the question. The question is, how are you going to solve such typical equation? You can expand your brackets, which is fine. But remember, from the squares that we talked about, you can simply remove the square of any number or any expression by introducing the opposite of a square, which is the square root in this case. So the opposite here is to introduce the square root. The moment we introduce the square root both sides, it means we have get rid of what? The square. So the square root and the square, these two cancels, you remain with x minus 1. So it means we are going to have x minus 1 is equal to, take note now, on the right-hand side, we are having a numerical value in this case. So the square root of that numerical value becomes a plus or minus. So we're going to have plus or minus 3. Now we are considering an equation. It's no longer about variation. We are solving a normal equation. That's why you see we are being asked to calculate the values of x. They are knowing that we are not going to obtain one value from there. We are going to obtain more than one. So how are you going to solve for x? In this case, we can transpose the -1 to this side so that it becomes what? Positive. So that means our x is going to be -1 to this side. It becomes a positive. But already we are having plus or minus on 3. 3 is having a plus or a minus. So this one is going to affect 3. 1 is going to be affected also by 3, but 3 it's plus or minus. So meaning we can separate the plus or minus part that we are seeing here. So we need to say 3 can carry a plus or it can carry a minus. So we are going to have our 3 with a plus. So it's going to be 1 plus 3, or we are going to have a condition whereby x is 1 minus 3. We are separating the 3. The 3 is the one that is having plus or minus, not 1. 1 is not having plus or minus, it's just fixed as it is. So 1 remains as it is, but 3 is the one that is going to be separated. So meaning to say we can combine our solutions at the end. 1 plus 3, that is going to be a 4. And on this other hand, 1 minus 3, which is going to be a -2 in this case. So these are the possible values of x that we are going to obtain at the end. What you just needed in this part here was to properly understand your equation. So like I said, if you were to expand, it's fine. You can expand your brackets, then you equate. It's still one and the same thing, but we can also take advantage of some other methods that are applicable also in our syllabus for solving equations. I think if you check the solving of equations part, we explained about such typical questions. Then on this question, we are given that a salary of $P of a saleswoman who sells cars of the same type is partly constant, and her commission partly varies as N, the number of cars that she sells in 1 month. All right. So in this case, we are given information, which is a partial variation again. Let us check the information that we're given later so that we understand what are we supposed to do here. All right, so we're asked to express P in terms of N and constants H and K. So the first part here is to express P in terms of, all right, so we are given stage by stage. Remember, this is our information here. They are saying the salary of $P of a saleswoman who sells the cars of the same type is partly constant. So we are given that the salary is represented by P and N is representing a commission. So here they're saying P, who sells the cars of the same type, is partly constant. So here we do not know this constant. And her commission partly varies as N. So her commission is a constant again, but partly varies as the number of N, which is the number of cars that she sells in 1 month. So let us take note into consideration of this information that we have. So we said the salary it's P. There we are given, it's different from that question where you're not given the weekly income, the letter for that, where you have to choose the letter. Here we are not choosing anything, we are already given. So we are simply going to have the first item as P is equal to the partly constant. Remember, partly constant, you just indicate a constant as it is. There's no other term that you're going to multiply. But here commission, which is a constant, this one partly varies as n. So it's a constant with the n, which is the number of cars, just like the previous question where we had a constant with the number of hours for a particular overtime that was there. So here commission is a constant, just like this part that we had, so that we do not confuse where we had the issue of an overtime where we are given, but that it the overtime wage, which varies directly as the number of hours. There you consider a constant with what is affected, but something that is fixed, just a constant, you just indicate as H. That is the same part as when you are given as partly constant. It's just a constant. We do not know what is it. On this part, we do not know this constant, but here we know this other constant, this K. We know that one because they said the here commission partly varies as N. Which commission are we talking? The constant. So that is where you are given to write this in terms of what? To write this in terms P, to express P in terms of N and constants H and K. So that is the first item. Then the second item B, find the value of H and the value of K. That was the B part. So the B, we are supposed to calculate here the value of H and K. From which information? That is where you consider what you are given now. So this is B, not A. A, we are done. We end the B now. We are supposed to find H and K. So we use this information now. If she sells 7 cars in 1 month, her salary is what? 675. We are given the salary, which is P in this case, it's 675. So P is 675, which is equal to H, is a constant, plus K, in this case, K times N, N being the number of cars. So she sells how many cars? In this case, 7 cars. So it's going to be 7K. That's the whole idea there. We move on to the second statement. If she sells 10 cars, her salary is 900. So we are given the salary, which is P in this case. So 900 is equal to H plus now the number of cars, N represented the number of cars, which is 10K. So by formulating these two equations, we are going to solve for what? We are going to solve for K and H. So the question was to solve for H and K. So with these two equations, how are we going to solve for H and K? We can consider, this time we can consider directly eliminating H, because on the H's, you can see these two are the same. So you can simply eliminate H in the first place here. So we are going to eliminate H. How? By subtracting, all right? So if we subtract, what are we going to have? 675 minus 900. This is going to give us negative 225. We subtract properly. H minus H, that's a 0 already at the same. So 7K minus 10K. So it's 7 minus 10, which is going to give us minus 3K. So to find K, you are going to divide by negative 3 both sides. By dividing by negative 3, we are obtaining the value of K, negative, negative. So this is going to give us a positive 75. So now with the value of K, we can substitute into any of these two equations that we are given to find the value of H. So I'm going to take the first equation, whereby we've got 675 is equal to H plus 7K, but we have now the value of K, which is 75. So we are going to substitute in place of K, we are going to substitute 75. So that's 675 is equal to H plus 7 times 75. You're going to obtain 525. This is paper 2. So you can just use your calculator, direct transpose 525 to the other side. It's going to be a negative. So we are going to have 675 minus 525, which is equal to H. So what is going to be the value of H if we subtract that was going to give us 150 in this case. So that was the question, to find the value of H and to find the value of K. The question here is N. We are supposed to end the answer the question as given. Now this is B. Just to find this, find the value of H and K, remarks for that. Then the C, item 1, write the equation connecting P and N. Before, we had an equation that was connecting P, N, and the constants. Now they just need us to find in terms of P and N. So what is going to happen with the constants H and the constant K? We are going to substitute them back now. So here, remember, after having your H and K, we are supposed to substitute back into the what? Into our equation that we had before here, where we are given P is equal to H. So they are saying, write an equation that is going to have P and N, P and N. So we substitute H and K. So that is the item C in this case. So our item C, which means P is going to be equal to H. We have the value of H in this case, that is 150, plus K. We have the value of K, which is 75 times N. Remembering that K represents this K75, we said it's a commission. All right, then the other part now, they need us to calculate the saleswomen's salary in this case, the salary this time. That is the item 2. So take note what represents the salary. It's P. We talked about this. Salary is P. So when she has not sold any car in this case, meaning to say we do not have any car that is sold, and the number of cars in this case is represented by N. So they are simply saying N is equal to 0. She did not sell anything. And remembering that we talked about this, to say salary is P and the number of cars is represented by N. So they say she did not sell anything, she sold no cars. So meaning to say N at that moment must be equal to 0. So what does it mean? It means here, this was item 1. All right, so this was item 1. So our item 2, they want us to calculate P, which is the salary in this case. So P for that particular month is going to be 150 plus 75 times 0. The number of cars, she sold nothing. So that's a 0 there. So meaning to say she's just going to obtain $150 in this case. So therefore, the salary was going to be 150. That's the salary. The salary was going to be $150. Remember, this salary is actually affected by a lot of things. So for that particular month, the salary was going to be what? Was going to be $150. So you work with the information that you are given and also answer the questions properly when you are given an item by item like that. All right, the second part, not sure the second part, but the D part now is they're asking us to calculate the salesman's salary this time when she sells 9 cars in 1 month. So now she sold something, 9 cars. We are given that N is equal to 9. So it's just a continuation again, just a substitution, just like the previous part where we were given this time. Remember, previous we said the number of cars was a 0 in this case. So this time it's a continuation from the relationship that we already have between what? Between the number of cars. Remember, we already have the relationship between the salary and the number of cars with the constants, which is this relationship. Now we are given that she sold 9 cars. We are given the value of N, which is 9. So the salary for that month is going to be 150 plus 75 times N, which is 9 in this case. So that means our P was going to be 150 plus, if you multiply these two, that was going to be 675. So combine everything, that was going to give us 825. So P is representing what? The salary. So that's same consideration in this case, just like the previous case that we had. So meaning to say our salary at the end was going to be $825 if she sold 9 cars. That is what she was going to obtain at the end. Remember, it's affected with the constant, it's affected with also the commission. The constant K, like we said before, represents the commission. So that was the question. Now they are saying on this part, I want us to be careful here because mostly we're having a confusion on this part E. On E, they gave us that her commission is 2.5% of each of the price of one car. So we are given, remember, a commission is a certain amount that you get, like as a thanks, like to say whatever that you have into the business. If you sell this, we are going to be given one for each car that you sell. Maybe it's gonna be 1%, whatever percentage of the price that you have sold that car. The percent that is the price. The percentage is taken from the price of the car. Is 2.5 of the price of 1%. That is your commission. Calculate the price of each car. Why are they asking us to calculate the price of the car? Because they know that we are given that commission before. Okay, let me write it stage by stage. You understand me here. I'm just going to write it stage by stage here so that you understand me. All right. We are given a commission percentage in this case to say out of each and every car, she's going to obtain a commission which is 2.5%. Remember, that was 2.5%. So she's going to obtain 2.5% of each car. All right. So now the question is to calculate the amount or the price now of the car, not the commission, because the commission we already have. You need the price of the car. So what is going to be the price of the car? Okay. Since we have the commission, why am I saying we have the commission? Remember, when we calculated here, or when we did our calculations and so forth, we are given that her commission, it's a constant here. Her commission partly varies as N. And I said that commission is a constant, which is represented as K. So meaning wherever we see the value of K, that constant K here, the one that we calculated here, we have the value of K here, we calculated it, it's 75. That's a commission that we have there, because K is representing a commission. So that value here represents a commission. So we have a commission here of $75. So meaning taking the value of K, which is representing the commission in this case, we are saying our commission of each car, because it's taken per each car. So this commission that we are saying, it's 2.5%. We have its amount, it's $75. That is the amount of the commission in this case. That is the amount. But now they need the price of each car, the price of the car now. Knowing that this commission, it was taken from a price, we do not know. So it's like you're simplifying an equation to say, let me put it this way. It's like you're simplifying an equation to say 2.5%, 2.5% of a car, of a certain car, which we do not know its amount in this case, or we can just represent as X for the amount of that car. If you take, or if you multiply the price of a car by 2.5%, you are supposed to obtain the commission. That is how this commission is taken. It's a percentage of what you worked. So we do not know the price of this car, this one. We do not know. But we know the commission. We are given the commission, that the commission, we calculated it was a constant, which is 75. So we are simply saying, how do we remove this percentage in the first place? We have to divide by 100. So this 2.5 is same as 2.5. So it's same as 2.5% of X is equal to the commission of $75. So what is going to be the X, which is the price of the car? In this case, we are talking about the price of the car. So how do you remove the percentage? In this case, you remove the percentage by what? Dividing by 100. So this is same as 2,5 over 100. X is equal to 75. So by manipulating your equation, you can calculate for X. This is paper 2, so you can simply divide, or you can cross multiply in this case to find this X. So that is going to be 2,5 times X. 2,5X is equal to 100 times 75, which is 7500 in this case. So to find X, we can simply divide by 2,5 both sides. Divide by 2,5 both sides. We have the value of X, which is representing the price of the car in this case. So this was going to give us 3,000 in this case. So thus, the price of the car in this case was supposed to be $3,000 in this case. So that's the price of the car. The price of the car is 3,000 in this case. Remember, this was in dollars, so it's going to be $3,000 as the price of the car. So if you are dealing with commission, it's just a normal percentage, this one, just a normal percentage that you are working with. You can even work it as a proportion to say 2.5%, which is the commission. We have the amount of that commission. So 2.5% is equal to $75 in this case. The commission is $75. What about the price of the car? The price of the car, since a commission is taken from the amount of the car, it means the price of the car will be at 100%. This is 2.5% representing this amount. But the car, with the price of its car when sold, it is sold at its normal price at 100%. So you're asking yourself now to say, before we remove the 2%, what was the price at 100% here? So this one is going to be more. So to remove this, it's going to be 100 over 2.5 times this. So we are going to have 100 over 2.5 as a decimal is same as 2,5 times 75. So we are going to obtain the same answer in this case. We are going to have the same thing. That is how we can play around using simple proportion, or you can refer to this part to say, I know that this amount was taken as 2.5 times the price of the car. So I do not know the price of the car, but I know the equivalent after multiplying by 2.5. I know what I'm going to obtain, that it's 75, which is my commission. So from there, I can calculate the value of X, which is representing the price of the car. So that one, you can play it, can work it out any way of your choice. So that was all about this question here. On this question, let us consider the next question there, where we are given in this case. All right, so let's see, we are given the time, which is t hours, varies inversely as the speed, which is s, which is kilometers per hour. So we are dealing with time and speed in this case. All right, so it's an inverse variation that we are considering. In this case, there's an inverse variation. So t varies inversely, that is 1 over the speed, which is s. So also the units, this one is hours, this one kilometers per hour. So the question was, express t in terms of s and a constant d. So the constant is not supposed to be k. The constant this time is supposed to be a d. So meaning to say, the first question, when we introduce our constant, remember, when you have equal sign and the constant, you're supposed to write k over s, but the constant now that we are supposed to write as k over s, they're saying this constant is supposed to be what? D. So you use the constant that you are given, so it's going to be d over s. So that was the question there. All right, then on the B part, they are now asking us to calculate the constant d when t is equal to 12 minutes, so take note how they are giving us this part. When t is equal to 12 minutes, t is a time in hours, but here they are giving us t in minutes. So we are supposed to convert the t in minutes to a time in hours, to time in hours. So that was where you're supposed to be careful on your question. So you're gonna convert, remember, 1 hour is equivalent to 60 minutes in this case. So what about 12 minutes? How are you going to convert these 12 minutes to hours? So it's simply going to divide 12 over 60. So it means in place of time, we are going to use 12 over 60. It's now in hours because this time is supposed to be in hours. So it is equal to D over S, which is our speed, kilometers per hour. And the same speed, kilometers per hour. So this one, there's nothing that we are changing because already it's in kilometers per hour. So it's just going to be over 15. So that was the question. So how are you going to calculate the value of D? So you can simply cross multiply. In this case, multiply here. You can reduce your values. If possible, try to also reduce these values before you cross multiply. You can reduce by 12 here. That is a 1. By 12 into 60, that is a 5. So we can cross multiply. That means 1 is going to multiply 15. So 15 is equal to 5 times D. So this is going to be 5D. So to find D, simply divide by 5 in this case. So that means the constant D is going to be what? 5 into 15. That is going to give us a 3. So that was the whole part of our question in this case. If you have to use the units, you can use the units for kilometers, because if you divide the kilometer per hour by the time in hour, you're going to remain with an hour with the kilometers in this case. So you can even write in kilometers. That is the whole idea. All right, so that was it on this part. Then we are given that it is given that W varies is inversely proportional. So I think these ones, guys, we are now used direct and now used to these typical questions. So here it's W varies inversely proportional to, so it's going to be 1 over F, inversely proportional to F. And we are given that F is express the equation of F and W. So that is the A part. So you have to need to constant. So it's going to be K over F. With the value of F that we are given and W, can substitute our W there, it's 150. So 150 is equal to K over F, which is 20 in this case. So what are we going to do to find the constant K? You can simply cross multiply. So 1 times K, that is K is equal to 20 times 150. If you multiply, this is going to give us 3,000. So with the value of K, we are going to substitute now the value of K that we obtained here in place of K, so that we have a relationship between F and W. We are left with F and W. So meaning to say W is going to be equal to K, which is 3,000 over F in this case. All right, so that was the formula. Then from the formula, find the value of F if W is equal to 60. So like I said, this one, it's now a continuation. We are given the value of W. So W is equal to 60. At that moment, we are supposed to calculate F. So this K is a constant, does not change. So we are simply going to calculate F from there. So that means to find F, we can simply cross multiply here. 60 times F, that is going to be 60F is equal to 1 times 3,000, which is going to be 3,000 in this case. So to find F, what are we going to do? We can simply divide by 60 by 60. All right, so thus we have got the value of F in this case, which is going to be what? 6 into 30, that is 5 into 0, that is a 0 there. So we're going to have 50. So that was the whole idea of our question done on this part. All right, then we have another part. So here we are given that it's a word problem. So we do not know the type of word prop that we have. So the annual premium P for a funeral insurance scheme varies jointly as the square root of the age Y in years and the number of dependents D. So this is not a partial variation. This is a joint variation. So we are given P representing the annual premium. In this case, the annual premium P for a funeral insurance scheme varies jointly. So it varies jointly as what? As the square root of the age, the square root. So Y here is supposed to be under the square root. And the number of dependents, which means we are going to multiply to the number of dependents, which is given as D. So that is our joint variation. So as we know, we are going to introduce the constant P is equal to K, the square root of Y times D. So we are given that if a 25-year-old applicant with 6 dependents pays $150, calculate the monthly premium for a 49 who pays this a certain. All right. So before we have the question to calculate this information that you're given here, and also take note to calculate the monthly premium in this case. Remember, P here is the annual premium. So once you calculate the value of P, you are obtaining for the annual, the whole year. We are talking about 12 months in this case. So to find the monthly premium now, you are supposed to divide whatever that you're going to get from what? From that amount. Then you know, okay, that was the monthly premium. Okay, so here, let us substitute our information first so that we can calculate the value of K. Joint variation, direct variation, inverse. Always you have to calculate even the partial variation. You need the constants. So what are we given on the first information here? At 25 years, the number of years in this case, Y is representing, yes, so here we are given the value of Y with the 6 dependents. So the dependence is given by what? By D. So we are given these 6, the dependent pays $150. So this is our P, the money that is being paid. All right. So meaning to say we are going to have P 150 is equal to K times the square root of Y. In this case, remember we said Y is 25, the number of years, times the number of dependents, which is 6 in this case. So we can calculate the value of K from there. 150 is equal to the square root of 25, which is 5, then 5 times 6, which is going to be 30. So we are going to obtain 30K. So in order for you to obtain K, you can simply divide by 30 in this case. So that's the value of K was going to give us what? A 5. So we are going to obtain a 5 in this case. So with this value of K that we are having here, we can substitute back now into our equation so that we have a relationship between the premium, the years, and the number of dependents that are there. So it means P is going to be 5 times the square root of Y times D in this case. So let's consider our question now. The question is where we are being asked to calculate the monthly premiums. Like I said, as here we are not given P as a monthly premium. P is an annual premium. So they are simply asking you to calculate P, which is the annual. Then you have to divide that answer by 12 to obtain for the monthly now. But what are we given from this monthly premium? We are given for a 49-year-old. So we are given the years. Remember, the year is Y. And the applicant with the 4 dependents, we said the number of dependents is represented by what? By D. So we have Y, which is the years, and the dependents D, which is 4 dependents of this applicant in this case. So meaning to say we are going to calculate P is going to be 5 times the square root of Y, which is Y is 49. So it's going to be the square root of 49 in this case times the number of dependents in this case, which is 4. So that was going to give us P, which is the annual premium in this case. So the square root of 49 is a 7. So you can multiply 5 times 7. We can multiply everything in this case. 5 multiplied to 7 multiplied to 4. This was going to give us $140. So this is going to give us $140. So this is annually. All right. But the question was for us to find when this person is doing this monthly, what is going to be the monthly part, not the annual, because P originally here, why am I saying it's annual? Originally, P is an annual premium, which means you're talking about 12 months. So meaning to say at the end, for you to obtain the monthly, you are supposed to divide this amount now by what? By 12. That will be the whole idea of our question in that case. We have to divide by what? By 12. All right. So for monthly, you have to be careful here on this part. For monthly, we are going to divide $140 by 12 in this. If we were to divide, you were going to obtain something like 11,66 and so on. So it's going to be 11,666, which is 67. If you are dealing with money, you round off to 2 decimal places in this case. So this is a monthly part that you are given. So you have to be careful when answering or attempting these typical questions. I still remember we had a particular question like this, but there we did not consider the monthly. They are supposed to consider that monthly part. It's part of your what? It's part of your question. All right, now we are given on the other part that it is given that D varies jointly as E squared. So it's a joint variation. And F, right? So if you are just given varies jointly as this, you are not given any inverse part. It's just a normal joint variation which is connected in a direct manner. So that is D varies jointly as E squared. So it varies jointly as E squared. And F, then we are asked to find the formula for D in terms of E and F. So meaning to say they need us to find the constant first in this case. So we are going to have D is equal to K E squared F, and we are supposed to substitute the information that we are given to find the value of K. Given that D is 5, so 5 is equal to E is given as 3. So we are going to have 3 squared times F, which is 2 in this case, times K. So we can calculate the value of K first. 3 squared, that is 3 times 3, which is 9. Then 9, whatever that you get times 2 is going to be 18. So this is going to be 18K. So divide by 18 both sides. Thus, we are going to obtain 5/18. So that is with the value of K, which is our constant, we are going to substitute because the question needs us to find a formula for D in terms of E and F. So this part must be substituted now. So therefore, we shall have D is equal to 5/18, which is K, then E squared F. So this is going to be E squared F like this. All right. So that is how you play around this typical question. Find the value of D now, given that E is equal to 2 and F is equal to 3. So it's just a substitution that you're simply making. Already we have the formula that is connecting D, E, and F. So meaning to say we are simply going to substitute D is equal to 5/18 times E squared. So we need the value of E, and E is equal to 2. So this one is going to be 2 squared because it's E squared. So it's going to be 2 squared times F. At that moment, remember, F is 3. So you're going to multiply to 3. So this is going to give us 5/18 times 2 squared. 2 times 2, that is 4, times 3. So you can even reduce, this is same as over 1 by 2 here, that is 2, by 2, that is 9, by 3, that is 1 here, by 3, that is a 3. So we are ending up with 10, 5 times 2 there, which is 10 over 3. So D is going to end up as 10 over 3. Or you can write it as 3 and a third. If you can 3 into 10, that is 3, remainder 1 over 3, which is 3 and a third, or 3,333, and so on. This is paper 2. So you can even write it as a decimal. All right, so that was it on this question, joint variation. All right, then on the other part, we are given that E varies directly as the square of V. So that's a direct variation that we are given. I think this is just direct, all right? So E is equal to, it varies directly as the square, meaning to say V squared. So that is what you're given. Item A is to express, so take note the question now. All right, so why am I putting, we have got variation there. All right, so the item A is express E in terms of V and a constant M. So we are given the constant to use, as we're just supposed to introduce the constant as E is equal to K V squared. But now they are saying this constant here is supposed not to be K, but to be what? To be M. So you're supposed to write in terms of the constant you are given there. B, given that E is equal to 3, V is equal to, find M. So now we are just saving a substitution. We are given that E is equal to 3. At that moment, V is equal to 2. So it is going to be 2 squared times M in this case, which is our constant. So you can calculate M. After substituting, it's just a normal equation, 2 squared, that is 2 times 2. Which is going to be a 4 times M, which is 4M. So to find M, we are simply going to divide by 4 both sides. By dividing by 4, we are obtaining the numerical value of M, which is going to be 3 over 4, or you can have it as a decimal, 0.75. It's up to you if you want to convert that to a decimal. So that was our question, direct as it is. Then we also have the volume of a gas in this case at a constant temperature. So you're given the volume at a constant temperature is inversely proportional to its pressure. So at a constant temp, so the temperature in this case is constant. So you're given that volume of a gas at a constant temperature is inversely proportional to what? To its pressure. Inversely 1 over. So that means that's our variation there. So the first item there was to express V in terms of P and a constant K. We are simply going to substitute, in this case, the information, introduce the constant and equal sign at the same time. So that means V is equal to K over P. Remember, inverse variation, K, you write it on top. So it's going to be K over P. That was the question there. Then item 2, we are given that V is 45 liters, which is the volume, and P it's 600 in this case. All right, so let us check what is the question about. So from this information, we are given you need to find the V when P is equal to 1050, which is 3 marks. All right. This information that we are given is limited. In order for us to find V, we are supposed to first work with this information, first deal with this information to find the value of K that we are given before calculating that. So here, let us find K first, all right? So we're gonna have our item 2. Remember that we are saying V is equal to K over P, and we are given V 45 liters is equal to K, which is the constant, over P, which is 600, all right? So you can cross multiply to find K. K is gonna be 45 times 600. That was paper 2, so you're going to obtain 27,000. Just use your calculator here. So with the value of K that we have obtained here, we are going to substitute now into the relationship that we are having between V and K. The relationship states that V is equal to K, which is 27,000, our constant, over what? Over P. This is the relationship that connects the two variables, V and P, the volume and the pressure. So the question now here was we were asked to calculate the volume, calculate the volume when the pressure, when P is, we are given P, which is given as Newton per watt per square meter. So meaning to say, we are going to take the P and substitute into our equation in this case, all right? So we're gonna substitute our P in this case, which is, we can obtain the value of V this time. So meaning to say, our V was going to be 27,000 over the pressure in this case, which was 1,050. So like I said, this is paper 2, you're going to divide. That was going to be 25 and 5 over 7. Remember, this volume was given in what? In liters. Or as a decimal, that was going to be 25.714, something like that, which is the volume in liters. So that is how we can play around such typical questions whereby you need to relate to the question in information, but all the same as we had on those other questions that we were given before. So as you can see, it's a matter of playing around with your formulas, those variations, how you connect your variations together and so forth. It is very, very important that you apply that consideration. Then on this other part, think here, I do not know the number. I was no longer listing the numbers, but I think that was 27 or something. Okay, the number of revolutions N of a wheel over a fixed distance is fixed, it varies inversely as the circumference C. All right, so we are given that N varies inversely, we are back inversely 1 over C, which is the circumference of the in centimeters. So the first question is, write down an equation involving N, C, and a constant K. The constant is included in this case. So meaning to say, our item A is going to be N is equal to K over C. You just introduce the constant, that's it. Then the second part now, that is where we are given, if the wheel of the circumference 80 centimeters makes 10 revolutions, find the number of revolutions. So the first part is on this information that you are given. If the circumference is given by what? By C in centimeters. So this is C. It makes 10 revolutions. The number of revolutions is N. So where you see the number of revolutions, it's N. So we are given that N is 10, N is equal to K over C, and N there is 10 revolutions. So 10 is equal to K over C, which is the circumference. There we are given the circumference of what? Of 80. So we can calculate the value of K, cross multiply. All right, so in this case, we are going to cross multiply so that we have the value of K. 1 times K, we are going to have K is equal to 10 times 80, which is 800. But that is not the question. The question is not asking us to calculate the value of K, but to find the number of revolutions made by the wheel of the circumference, that is 200 centimeters. So meaning we are supposed to substitute back the K that we are obtaining so that we have a relationship between N and C, the circumference. So N is going to be K, which is 800 in this case over the circumference. So that means we now have a relationship that connects these two. The relationship connecting what? Connecting the speed and the circumference. So therefore our N, which is the number of revolutions, is going to be 800 over C. And our circumference there was what? 200 in this case. This circumference is C. So that means N is going to give us what? At the end, if we divide, that is going to be a 4. So we are going to obtain 4 revolutions. Remember, this one is about revolutions. The N is the number of revolutions which were made in this case. So that was the whole part of our question. Then it is given on our inverse variation here. That's inverse variation. So you can just say maybe it's question number 20. I don't know now. Y varies inversely as 2x minus 1. So the y varies inversely 1 over. All right, so that's 2x plus what? Plus 3. and y is equal to 1 and x is equal to 1, express y in terms of x. So here we are not given a constant, so we are supposed to find the constant first. So y is equal to k, the constant on top, over 2x plus what? 2x plus 3. So this is what we have. This is a single term. So we are given that x is equal to 1 and y is 1 and x is 1. So you can simply substitute to find the value of what? The constant. Here there's a 1, here there's a 1. So that means 1 is equal to k over 2 times 1, that is a 2, plus 3, which is going to be a 5. So to find k, you can simply cross multiply, or you can multiply by 5 both sides, or you can just cross multiply. So that means k is equal to what? K is equal to 5 times 1, which is 5. Now substitute the k that we obtained into this equation here, where there is k. So meaning to say y is going to be given as k, which is 5 over the whole expression of 2x plus what? The whole expression of 2x plus 3. That was the idea of the question. The relationship, that is to express y in terms of x, it's a relationship of y in terms of x. Now the B part, find the value of x when y is 5. It's now just a substitution that you are making because you have a relationship, you have the condition between y and x. What are you given now? You are given the value of y there, which is 5. So meaning to say 5 is equal to 5 in this case over 2x minus 3. So we're going to have 2x plus 3, sorry for that. So to find x, you can simply cross multiply this and so forth, because this is same as over 1. So on the cross multiplication part, remember this is a bracket, so everything that you're going to multiply here is supposed to be 5 into 2x plus 3. So you multiply everything in this case, which is equal to 1 times 5, which is 5. So 5, instead of us divide, yes, you can divide by the bracket, but instead, as you can see, 5 is out of the bracket, you can cancel this 5 and 5, 5 into 5, that's a 1 this side. So you're going to remain with 2x plus 3, which is equal to a 1, since we divided by 5 outside. So that means 2x is going to be what? This number to the other side, it becomes a negative 3. It was a positive, so 1 minus 3, that is going to be negative 2. To find x, simply divide by 2 in this case. So our x is going to be what? A negative 1. That is the part that we're supposed to obtain in this case. Our x was going to be a negative 1. So as you can see, it's a play around. The play around of typical questions. Then on this part here, which is gonna be our question 29. The resistance R in newtons to a train traveling at a velocity, in this case v, which is kilometers per hour, is given by the formula. Already you are given the formula there, it's already connected. So it's a partial variation, yes, but already here it's connected. They connected this for us. So R is equal to C plus dV squared, where C and D are constants. So you're supposed to take note, C and D, these are constants. Given that R is this, and so find the value of C and D. You are just substituting on this one. You have the values of R and D, so you're just going to substitute R in this case, the first one. All right, so let us have our first item here. So R in this case, that's a 4 here. So 4 is equal to C plus dV squared. So V is 20. V at that moment here, it's a 20. So it's going to be 20 squared, because this is V squared. So we are going to have 20 squared times D, of which 20 squared is what? 20 squared, that is 400. So 4 is equal to C plus 20 squared, which is 20 times 20, which is 400. 20 times 20, that's going to be a 400. And okay, so that's going to be 400 times D. All right, you do the same thing on the other part here. R is equal to 10 when V is equal to 40. So R this time is 10. So this time we are supposed to have as 10 is equal to C plus V squared, which is 40. So we are supposed to have 40 squared, and 40 squared, it's 1,600. So that was going to be 1,600 D. So as you can see, we've got two equations that we can solve simultaneously in order for us to obtain the value of C and D. So taking advantage of the C that we have here, we can eliminate this C, since we are having 1 and 1, so we can eliminate, subtract 4 minus 10, that is going to be -6, is equal to C minus C, that's a 0. 400 minus 1,600, it's going to be -1,200, all right? This is paper 2. Remember, guys, use calculators, all right? So we're going to have -1,200D. So to find D, we can simply divide by -1,200 both sides, -1,200 both sides. So this is going to cancel. So D is going to give us what at the end? Negative cancels. You are going to obtain 1/200 in this case, okay? That's 6 into 6 is 1 into 12, that is 200. All right, so having the value of D, we are going to substitute now to find the value of C. Remember, we need C and what? And D in this case. So you are going to choose any of these equations, any of these two equations, just going to choose. I'm going to substitute into the first equation. 4 is equal to C. I'm supposed to calculate C this time, plus 400D. So this is 400D. So it's going to be 400 times D. I obtained the D here, which is 1/200. So if we are to multiply here, what are going to have? This is same as over 1. So it's 200 into 200, 1 into 400, which is 2. So we are left with the 4, which is equal to C plus 2. So to find the value of C, we are simply going to transpose 2 to that side. It becomes a negative. So that's 4 minus 2, which is going to be a 2. So C is going to be a 2 in this case. All right. So that is what we were supposed to obtain, the value of C and also the value of D. Then item 2, to find V if R is equal to 3. All right. The last question was just for you to find the value of C and D, which are the constants. Remember, C and D, these are constants. So we know that we are supposed to substitute these constants back into the original equation that we are given. R is equal to C dV squared plus dV squared. So meaning to say we are supposed to have this in the first place, that R is equal to C, which is 2 in this case. So remember, it is C, R is equal to C plus dV squared. So the D in this case is 1/200. So it's going to be 1/200 V squared. Before you consider the question now, so the question later is asking us to calculate or to find V if when R is equal to 3. We are now given that R is equal to 3. So you are simply substituting, because we have this formula connecting these two. So R in this case is given as 3. So 3 is equal to what? 3 is going to be equal to 2 plus 1/200 V squared. So how are we going to have the value of V? You can simply transpose 2 to the other side, subtract 3 minus 2, which is going to be 1. So 1 is equal to 1/200 V squared. So in order for us to remove the 200 here, you can multiply by 200, or you can cross multiply this side. That is going to be 1 times 1 V squared, which is V squared is 200 times 1, which is 200. Or you can simply multiply by 200 this side, multiply by 200 that side. So if V squared is equal to 200, what about V? Not V squared. The V is going to be the square root. So to remove the square, you introduce the square root. So V was going to be the square root of 200, which was going to be 14,142 in this case. And this V representing what? Remember, V is representing, V is the velocity in kilometers per hour. So it's gonna be in kilometers per hour. So this is 14.142 in kilometers per what? In kilometers per hour. So that is how we play around these typical questions of this nature. All right, so you just have to connect your formulas whenever you're given such a condition. Sometimes they do connect the formulas for us, then we are just making like just like a continuation that you are simply having. All right, so that is question number 30. Now we are given that f is inversely proportional to the square of d. So this is inversely 1 over inversely to the square. So that is the square of d squared. And we are asked on the A, express f in terms of d and a constant k, meaning to say the constant is needed in this case. So we're going to have f is equal to k over d squared. That is the item 1. The constant is part of our solution. Then the item 2, now you are asked now to find the value of k given that f is 60 and d is this. That's where now you can have you can substitute the value of f. I have the value of f, so f is equal to this equation, and f there is given as 60. So that means 60 is equal to k over d squared. So d is 3, but being squared, so it's d to the exponent of 2. So that's it. We're going to have 60 is equal to k over 3 squared, which is 3 times 3, that is a 9. So how are we going to solve for k? We talked about this, going to cross multiply here. So that means 1 times k, that's a k, is equal to 9 times 60. 9 times 0, that's a 0. 9 times 60, which is 54. So we're going to have 540. So the question was for you to calculate the value of k. You end it there. That is the question. Find the value of k. You end it there. Another question, now we are asked to find the value of f given that d is equal to this. So it's a continuation after, but we know that we are supposed to subtract k first. For us to have this, we are supposed to have the relationship between f and d without this k, but having with the k as a numerical value. So meaning to say, we are going to have this as, all right, so this was B item 1. All right, so let us just save as item 1. So item 2, we are going to start by substituting the value of k into our normal equation. F is equal to k, which is 540. So F is equal to k 540 over what? Over d squared. So this is over d squared. Remember that, over d squared. So you can find whatever from this equation. You can find d, you can find f. So what is the question? The question is find f given that d is 6. So we are going to substitute the value of d, which is 6. So f is going to be equal to 540 over 6 squared. Remember, there's a square, so we are supposed to consider that square. So at the end, we are going to have 540 over 6 squared, which is 36. If we simplify properly, we are going to obtain 15. That's by 6 here, which is 6. By 6 here, we are going to obtain a 9. Then we can reduce by 6. That's into 9, which is going to be 1. We've got a remainder of 3. 6 into 30, which is a 15. So meaning to say our f is going to be represented by what? By 15. In this case, we are going to obtain our f as a 15. So that is the play around. That is the whole idea that we're supposed to obtain in this case or for this question. Then here we are given that a salesman's salary is partly constant and this and that. All right, so it's partly constant, partly varies as the total sales makes. So here we have got the salesman's salary. We do not know the salary in this case, like a presentation. So you can just say, let the salary in this case be represented by S. Partly constant, we are not told what is it that is constant, like that part where we are given commission. Here we are not told. Partly varies directly as the total sales he makes. So there's a constant here for partly varies. We do not know that constant, but as the total sales he makes for the month. So the sales, what is going to be the sales? We do not know the sales. We can just use any letter. So here I'm just gonna use N, but just choose any letter of your choice. So if we are to connect here, they are saying the salary, which is S is equal to, it's partly constant, meaning to say we just have a constant there. and partly varies directly, that means we now have another constant as what? As the total sales, which is n. So it's as n like this. All right. So that is our variation. So the question, if the sales are this, is salaries, this, find the salary. So here we are going to consider it later on, this part. For now, we need to consider what we are given here, right? We need to consider what we are given. What is it that we are given? If the sales are 10,000, the sales, it's n, so we're given n here. His salary, we said it's S, we're given S. So meaning to say, we are going to substitute the salary S, 550 is equal to H plus N, which is our sales. Our sales is what? It's 10,000. So it's going to be 10,000 K. You move on to the other part. His salary this time is 600. If the sales represented by what? By N. So we are given N, the sales, the salary, which is S. So we have got the salary 600. So the salary is the one that you are given. 600 is equal to H plus the sales. In this case, is 15,000. So it's going to be 15,000 K. Once you have got this equation, solve first, because in order for you to find his salary, you must have a formula that connects the salary to the sales. So where are you going to have that? You have to solve for H and K in this case. So it's a typical question that you need to solve. Even if you are not asked about that, you need to find the relationship between H and K. So since H and H are the same, we can simply eliminate H by subtracting here. We can eliminate H. You are using a calculator, so simply subtract 550 minus 600. That is the whole idea in this case, which is going to be negative 50 is equal to H minus H, that's a 0. 10,000 K minus 15,000 K, we are going to obtain minus 5,000 K. So this is going to be minus 5,000 K. So to find K, we can divide by negative 5,000 by negative 5,000. So here we're going to cancel. So that means K is going to be what? Cancel here, negative, negative, gonna be 1 over 1 here, 0, 0. So it's gonna be 1 over 0, 1 over 100. Or just use your calculator, which is as a decimal, is going to be 0.01 if you want to use a decimal. With the value of K, you are going to substitute it in any one of these equations so that you find H. So I'm going to use the first equation. 550 is equal to H plus 10,000 times K. So this is 10,000. We substitute now the value of K, and our K, it's 1 over 100, or that decimal 0.01. So meaning to say we are going to have 550 is equal to H plus, if we multiply these two, we are going to obtain a 100. All right, so as there's 0 here, there's 0 going to have a 100. Transpose the 100 to this side, it becomes a negative. So that's 550 minus 100 is equal to H, which is 550 minus 100 is what? 450. So 450 is equal to H. So meaning we have the constants H and K. Substitute them back into our relationship so that we find the relationship of these two, S and what? S and N. So it follows that S is equal to H, which is our constant H. It's 450 plus Kn. Our K there, we said it's 1 over 100. So it's supposed to be 1 over 100 times N. So we have a relationship between S and N, where S is representing what? The salary, N, the sales. So the question is, find his salary. What are you supposed to calculate? You're supposed to calculate S, given or if the sales are 25,000. So the sales, it's N. So we are given that N is 25,000. Find the salary, which is S. So we are going to find S given N as 25,000. So S is equal to 450 plus 1 over 100 times N, representing, remember, N is our our sales in this case, and these are the sales that we are given of 25,000. So we are given that the sales for that particular month was 25,000. This is paper 2, guys. Use your calculators when you are dealing with paper 2. So, all right, here it was going to be 250 if you multiply properly, but there you can just use your calculator. So that's the salary at the end is going to be 700. If you add this part, we are going to obtain 700. So that's the salary. That's the salary was $700 in this case for that particular month, or for that particular condition. This person was going to have a salary of $700 in this case, right? So you see, this is how we play around with this information. Just try also to revise along the lines. All right, then here we are given that a car uses L liters of petrol for every D kilometers traveled. So like every portion, like this is increasing. Remember, as distance increases, the petrol, the number of liters that you are using, they're increasing. So the question is, state the type of variation. That's a direct variation. Remember, direct variation is whereby the two are increasing at the same rate. Dealing with two variables, the petrol and the distance. So as you are traveling more, you are using more petrol. So that is the whole idea. So that's a direct. Inverse variation is when one is increasing, another one is decreasing. So that is the concept that you're supposed to take note. So meaning to say, here we are simply saying L varies with the what? With the distance. L varies with the distance. All right. So the question on B was, given that the car uses 5 liters over 60 kilometers, find the equation connecting L and D. Is going to be L and D there. Okay. So what's going to happen? Okay, connecting L and what? And D. If it uses 5 liters, so this is, we are going to take from our variation direct. L varies directly as what? As D. Introduce the constant L is equal to KD. So we are given now the liters, L, the number of liters, which is 5. So 5 is equal to D. That is the distance, is 60 kilometers. Is it in kilometers? As given here, it's in kilometers. So we are going to have it as 60 kilometers times K. So we are going to find the value of K, which is the constant connecting the two variables that we have in this case. All right, 5 into 5, 1 into 60, that's a 12. 5 into 6, that's 1. Remainder, 1 into 10, that's a 2. So meaning to say, our constant K is going to be 1 over 12. But that is not the question. The question is asking us to find the equation, to find the equation connecting. There is an equation connecting these two, which is we are substituting back our K. So it means L is going to be K, which is 1 over 12 times D. You are now substituting that K that we got. We now have a relationship between these two variables. That is the length, the distance that was being traveled with what? With the number of liters. So that was it, 2 marks for that. As you can see, there will be direct like that. These typical questions, all you just have to work with more questions. All right, then on another part, which is now, I think is now question number 33, it is given that Y varies inversely as the square of X minus 1. We got this typical question where they wrote for us as X minus X plus 3 squared. I'm still having that value, but now they are given, so you see, they keep on repeating. So here we are given that Y varies inversely, that is 1 over the square of X minus 1. So it's going to be X minus 1 squared. This is the square. And we are given that when Y is 2, X is 2, find the value of, whether you are given these values and so forth. Before you attempt this question, find a relationship first between Y and X. So meaning to say, we need to find the constant K that is connecting the two variables. Y is equal to K over X minus 1. But what is the value of K? From the information, Y is 2. So 2 is going to be equal to K over X, which is also 2. So you're going to have 2 minus 1 squared. So that's 2 is equal to K over 2 minus 1. That is a 1 squared, which is 1. So you can cross multiply in this case. If you are to cross multiply 1 times K, it's K. 2 times 1, which is 2. So having the value of K, we can substitute back that K here to have the relationship now. Y is equal to K, which is 2 in this case. So we are going to obtain 2 over X minus 1 squared. All right, so that is the relationship. But the question is, find the value of Y when X is 4. Without this relationship, we can't find anything. So we need the relationship first, then we consider now, what are we supposed to find? Y? Given what? Given X. X is what at that moment? X is 4. So when X is 4, what is going to happen here? We are going to have Y is equal to 2 over, in place of X, we substitute 4 minus 1 squared. So that's Y is equal to 2 over 4 minus 1, which is 3 squared in this case, and 3 squared, that is 3 times 3. So meaning to say we are going to have over 9. 3 times 3, that is a 9. So that was going to give us the value of what? The value of Y in this case. That's how we play around these typical questions. So sometimes you do not have the relationship, but you need that relationship in order to answer the question. Like this part again, they are not even asking us the relationship. Given that M is directly proportional to T, we are given that M is directly proportional to T. M varies directly as T. But they are just giving us information. Find at the end, find the value of T when M is equal to this. First, with the given information, we need to know what is the relationship between M and T with a constant K that we have. So meaning to say we are going to substitute M being 27,5 is equal to T. At that moment, it's 55. So that's 55K. To find K, simply divide by 55 here. So it means our K at the end was going to give us 1 over 2. All right, this is paper 2, guys. Consider that. So it was going to be 1 over 2. With the value of K, we substitute back into this equation so that we obtain now the relationship between M and K. So M is going to be 1 over 2 of K. That is not our question. The question is to find the value of T. All right, sorry, this is T, not K. So we have 1 over 2 T, in this case, the value of K. So the question now is to find the value of T if M is 43. So we are given M in this case, which is 43, is equal to 1 over 2T. So how am I going to find the value of T? I can simply cross multiply, or I can multiply by 2 both sides. Still, it's one and the same thing. Half of 2 cancels, we remain with the T. So it means T is equal to 2 times 43. 2 times 3, which is 6, 2 times 4 here, which is 86. So T is going to be 86. We do not know what this T is representing, but that is the idea there. And on the other part, we are now given this diagram here. From this diagram that we have, it's a graph. Actually, the graph shows the relationship between two variables, T and D. So this is T here and D, just like X and Y, the ones that you deal with on your graphs, the X and Y. So we are asked to use the graph to find the value of T when T is equal to this. When you are given a graph, analyze your graph first. You have to analyze what is happening on your graph. If you check this whole box from this point to this 2. So it means one box represents 1. So here it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and so on. But if we move this side, these 2 boxes, they represent 10. 2 boxes, complete 2 boxes, they represent 10. So it means one box is going to represent what? 5. We divide by 2. So it's going to be 5, 10. Here it's going to be 15, 20, 25, 30. That is what it means throughout, 45, and so on and so on. So the question on A is, use the graph. You are using this line, there's a straight line that you are seeing here. It shows us relationship between these variables. So they are saying here, to find the value of t when t is equal to 7. We are given t, so you move from t, we are given t is equal to 7. This is where we have t, straight to the graph where t is equal to 7 here. What is the value of d? D is on this side, so we are going to correspond it to the side where there is d. So it corresponds where? Between 30 and 40, which is 35. So in this case, d was going to be equal to 35. That is it. B, the value of t when d is 20. Now they gave us d, meaning to say we are supposed to move from the side of d. In this case, we are supposed to move from where d is this side, where d is 2, the t. They gave us that d is 20. So you move from d, which is 20 here. That is where we have 20 on d, straight to the graph, straight to the straight line here, to your line. Then when you reach the line, you drop your values down now because you need the time, and the time is found down. So down there, what is the corresponding value? It's a 4. So it means our time at that moment is going to be 4. That is our t. Then the question is, the value of k, if given that t is equal to kd. What are they saying here? It's a relationship that we are given to say t, when related to d with a constant, is because we are given that these two, they are in connection. So it simply means t varies directly as d. That is what it means. So in order for you to find the constant, you simply have to pick any corresponding that you want from the graph. As long you are taking any corresponding, maybe it's 1 versus 5, it's 2 versus 10, it's 3 versus 5. You take any combination of your choice. So in this case, I'm going to use the first one that we used here, that we took when t is equal to 7. Remember, we said d is the, so you use any combination of your choice. Like for example here, if t is 7, 7 is equal to d was 35. So it is going to be 35k. Divide by 35, divide by 35, meaning to say k is going to be what? 771 into 35, that is 5. So k is 1/5. Okay, I want you to see something. If you took any other combination, let's say I took this combination here of 2 versus 10, it means t at that moment is what? It's 2. So t is 2, which is equal to d at that moment here. D corresponding here, it's what? It's a 10. So it's going to be 10k. To find k, divide by 10, divide by 10. So it means k is going to be 1/5. As long you take corresponding values, you are going to have the same answer. Even if you use the one for 20 and 5, this one where d is 20 and t is 4, you are supposed to obtain the same answer because you are simply saying t is 4 from this condition that you are given here. T is 4, so 4 is equal to d. It's what? D, it's a 20, so it's going to be 20k. To find d, divide by 20, divide by 20. So as you can see, we are obtaining the same answer throughout, which is 1/what? Which is 1/5. So that is how we can play around this typical condition that we have. So it's all about us working or revising more questions so that we can properly understand the concept. All right. Question number 36. Now we are given, let us consider this information here. There are two variables that are given as R and V are connected by the equation R is equal to KV plus C, where K and C are constants in this case. So it's actually same typical part, this partial variation that you've been talking about. So they're asking us on the first part, write down the type of variation between R and V, between R and V. So as you can see, it's a sum of two parts here with a constant and a constant. So this is partly constant, this is partly varies as V. So here we are referring to a partial variation in this case. All right, that's a partial variation. All right, so we're gonna have this as a partial variation. Then take note what is the question here. You're just supposed to be careful. Some of the other questions, they just want us to play around with the type of a question that you be given particularly. They are saying if the graph of R is equal to KV plus C is drawn. Remember, this is a presentation of a straight line from Y is equal to MX plus C. We understand that if we are to draw a graph in this case, we are going to have consider our x-axis and we consider our y-axis. We do not know the line where it is going to pass. Is it going to be like this? Is it going to, because we do not have the value of k, or to see that is it having a positive gradient or is it having a negative gradient. But as long this is drawn on the graph, we know that y is equal to mx. We are going to have r in this case. We are given now as r is equal to kv, whereby k is a constant and v is a variable plus c. So this here, v is the same concept as x. R is the same as y. So it plays the same role as what we understand on our normal graph. In the x-axis, x is represented by v. So this will be the v-axis. The y-axis is the one that is represented by r. So r is representing the y-axis. That is the condition. So that's where you are given there that r on the vertical axis, this is what we have, r on the vertical where there is y, and we are given right down in terms of k and or c the coordinates of the point where the graph crosses the first part, where it crosses the vertical axis in this case. So you are back to your understanding of graphs to say, what is it that happens on our graph here? If it crosses the vertical, which is the y-axis, we know that in the y-axis, x is equal to 0 from our straight line graphs. In the y-axis, that is the vertical axis, x is equal to 0. And x is representing what? X in this case is representing v. Remember, we said x represents v. So meaning to say, in the r-axis, which is the y-axis in this case, v must be equal to 0, just like x is equal to 0. So if v is equal to 0, what would be the value of r, which is the value of y? Remember, y represents what? R. So we simply need to know what is going to be the value for r if k is v. So if v is equal to 0, so that is going to be k times 0 plus what? Plus c, meaning to say r is going to be equal to c. R is same as y. It's like y is equal to c. Remember, the coordinates of a point are made written as x, y in this case. But x, it's v. So it's going to be v versus y, which is r in this case. So that is the condition how you're going to write the coordinates, because the question is asking us here to write down the coordinates. So the coordinates in this case are v representing x, the x value. What will be the x value? Remember, our v in this case, our v in this case representing x is the one that we said in this vertical axis, v must be equal to 0, just like x is equal to 0. So we're going to have 0 as y, which is r in this case. What is the answer for y? Y is equal to c, which is r is equal to c from this part that we got. So r representing y, the value of y there in terms of c is what? It's a c. So the coordinate is going to be 0, c. That is on the vertical part. All right, on the horizontal axis, again, using the same idea of straight lines, we understand that on our straight lines, on the horizontal axis, this is our horizontal axis here, the x-axis. In the x-axis, y is equal to 0. So y is representing what? Y in this case is representing r. R in this case, that is our y. So we are saying in the horizontal axis, r is going to be equal to 0, just like y is equal to 0. So if r is equal to 0, substitute into the equation here so that you find the value of v, which is the value of x, because we need what would be the coordinate of x if r is equal to 0? If r is equal to 0, which is y is equal to 0, what is going to be the x value? The x value is v. So we are asking ourselves, what is going to be the expression for v if r is 0? So you're simply going to substitute r is equal to, so r this time it's a 0, is equal to kv, that is k times v plus c. So we are going to find v in this case. So meaning to say, we are going to make v the subject, transpose c to the other side, it becomes a negative. So negative c is equal to kv. So to find v, we are going to divide by k. We are going to divide by k both sides. So that means the expression for v is going to be taken as minus ck like this. This is the expression that is representing v. But we need the point. Remember the point, like I said, it's x, y. So therefore, the point in this case, or the coordinate that we are going to have in terms of xy is going to be represented by what in this case? X versus y. X is v. So meaning to say, whatever that represents x is our v, and our v in this case is minus ck, minus c over k. And y in this case is represented by r. And at that moment we said r is equal to what? R is equal to 0, which is y is equal to 0, where r is equal to. That is the condition. That was what the question was all about, to find where it crosses the horizontal. So meaning to say here, as you can see, x is a negative, y is a positive. So maybe it's a line of this nature like this, where we've got a negative value for x and a positive value for y. That is all we just need. We use the understanding of intercepts. All right, on C, make v the subject of the formula, the subject of the equation, right? We are given this equation again. We are now asked to make v the subject if r is equal to kv plus c. This is not about any variation. This one is just a normal change of subject type of a question, whereby you're supposed to make v the subject. So what can we do? We can transpose the c to the other side, since the c is not affecting directly our v. So if we transpose, it's going to be a negative. So that means r minus c is equal to kv. Remember, we are supposed to make what the subject? V the subject in this case. So to make v, we can simply divide by v. Since we are multiplying this by k, we can divide by k both sides, divide by k both sides. Thus, we are going to have the value of v. So that's v is going to be given as r minus c over k. All right. That is it. We are done. So that is how the question was supposed to be like. And we are now given again on this part here, given that, all right, so this is not important. Let us take our part here. From that equation that we had before, remember, we are given the equation for r, which is equal to kv plus c. So on the D item 1, we are now asked to, given that r is 14, v is 6, r is 8, and when v is 2, form a pair of simultaneous equations in terms of k and c. So what are we simply doing is substituting to form these equations. R in this case, we are given r is 14. So 14 is equal to v, in this case, kv, which means we are going to have 6 times k plus the constant c. Then we move on, and that is another condition. R is 8, so we are forming another equation. R this time is 8, which is equal to v, which is 2. So it's going to be 2 times k. So we're going to have 2k plus the constant. So that is the question here. Just form the equations. So we have formed the equation in this case. Then the item 2 now is hence find, meaning to say it's a continuation from the equations that we formed. Now calculate the numerical value of k and the numerical value of c. That means we are supposed to solve these equations simultaneously. So how are we going to solve our equations, given that 14 is equal to 6k plus c, and also 8 is equal to 2k plus c. How can we solve for c, for k and c in this case? All right, so in order for us to solve for c and k, what we are going to consider is that if we check here, c and c is actually the same, so you can eliminate c by subtracting the second equation from the first equation. That means 18, 14 here minus 8, we are going to obtain 6 is equal to 6k minus 2k, which is going to be 4k. C minus c, that's a 0. So to find k, simply divide by 4 both sides. So we are going to obtain the value of k as what? By 2 here. When I have 3 by 2 here, that's a 2. So that's k is going to be 3 over 2. So with the value of k, we can substitute. So it's 3 over 2 or 1,5 or 1.5, whatever way that you can have. So with this value of k, you are going to substitute in any of these two equations that we have to find now the value of c. So I'm going to take the first one, whereby we've got 14 is equal to 6k plus c. We have the value of k. So on the substitution, it's best for you to deal with an improper fraction when calculating later on than to work with a mixed fraction. So meaning to say 14 is going to be equal to 6 times k. We have the value of k, which is 3 over 2. So we're going to multiply 3 over 2 in this case, then plus c. So that means here, what are we going to have at the end? If we simplify 2 into 6, that is 3, because this is the same as over 1. So we're going to have 3 times 3, which is going to give us a 9. So that means 14 is equal to 9 plus c. So that's it. We can obtain the numerical value of c by transposing 9 to the other side. It becomes a negative. 14 minus 9 is equal to c. So what is the value of c? We are going to obtain a 5 if we subtract properly. So that was the whole idea of our question here for the value of c and the value of k. These are the numerical values that we are being asked on this part. Find or hence find the numerical values. So as you can see, it can be a question of this nature, whereby you also need to apply the change of subject and so forth, and also to understand the information about the straight lines and so forth. All right, so that our questions can be like that. All right, then on this other part, we are given that d is proportional to the cube of n. So there we are given that d is proportional to the cube, that is to the exponent of 3, the cube of n. So the first part is to express d in terms of n and a constant k. So we need the constant this time. So d is equal to k n to the exponent of 3. That is the question. Then b, given that n is equal to 3, d is equal to 3, find the value of d. So before we even consider the finding part, what are we going to need is from the information here, we are supposed to find the value of what? The value of k. So given that d is 21,6, so 21,6 is equal to n to the exponent, that is n is 3. So it's going to be 3 to the exponent of 3 times k. So that means we can find the value of k. 3 to the power of 3, that is 3 times 3 times 3, 3 times 3 times 3, which is 9, times 3, which is 27. So that is going to be 27k. To find k, simply divide by 27 both sides. All right, so if we are to divide this part, k is going to give us something like, all right, we can, for you to deal with the decimal, when you have a decimal on top like this, we can remove the comma here. We've got one decimal place, so we can multiply by 10 over 10. So here we're going to multiply by 10 over 10. 216 times 10, we're just going to move one comma this side, which is going to be 216 over 10 times 27, which is going to be 270 in this case. All right, so that is, we can reduce this part that we are given. We can reduce these numbers that we have here. We can try even 9 in this case. We can try 6, whatever number that you can try. Let's say we try a 6, in this case 6 into 21, which is going to be 18 3 times remainder a 3 in this case, and we're going to have into 36, which is 6, 6 into 27 into 24. That is going to be 4 times remainder 3, which is going to be 5 in this, and into 30. So 36 over 45. Remember, this is paper one. So there we have to reduce properly by 6. You can just try 3 in this case. 3 here, that's going to be a 1. And 3 into 6, a 2. 3 here, that's a 1, remainder 1, which is going to be a 5. And again by 3 into 12, that is a 4. 3 into 5 into 15, that's a 5. So you're going to have 4 over 5. So at the end, this was going to be 4 over 5. That is the value of K. So which gives us a relationship now with the value of K that we determined. It then follows that D is equal to what? D is equal to K 4 over 5. So it is going to be 4 over 5 n to the exponent of 3. So we now have a relationship which connects D and n, but that's not the question. The question is find D when n is equal to 5. From the relationship, now we can substitute the value of n, which is 5. We are given that n is 5, so therefore D is going to be 4 over 5 times n, which is 5 to the exponent of 3. So that means here we're going to have D, which is 4 over 5 times 5 to the exponent of 3. That's 5 times 5 times 5, which is 5 times 5, 25 times 5, which is going to be 125 in this case. So we're going to obtain 125. So that is, we can obtain the value of D from here. So if you divide 5 into 12, that is going to be 2. Remember, 2 into 25, which is 5. 4 times 25, which is a 100. So that means D was going to give us 100 from this information. So as you can see, that is how our questions sometimes might be given as. And the last part that we have, or the last question that we have, is given that it is given that P varies directly as T and inversely as V. So it's a joint here, whereby it's directly to T and inversely to V. So it means P varies directly with the T. The moment we consider an inverse, it's now 1 over V now. That is for the inverse variation. All right. So we are having 2 variations, the one that is direct and the other one inverse. So T is direct, V is inverse in the denominator, 1 over. Item 1, write down an equation connecting P, V, T, and a constant K, meaning to say we are supposed to have the constant on our answer. So P is equal to, we introduce the constant to multiply. So it's going to be KT over V. So the constant always on top, like I say, the constant, make sure that you write it on top. So that was the information. Then now we are given that P is 2 times 10 to the power 5, V is this, calculate the value of K. So we can make K the subject of the formula, or we can just substitute our information direct as it is in this case, all right? So that means here, item 2, to find K, we are going to substitute P, that is 2 times 10 to the exponent of 5 is equal to T, which is 300. So it's going to be 300K over V, which is 1 times 10 to the exponent of what? 1 times 10 to the exponent of -3. So how can we calculate the value of K from this part here? We can simply cross multiply to remove the fraction in this case. That means we are going to have 2 times 10 to the exponent of 5 multiplying 1 times 10 to the exponent of -3, which is equal to 300K. 1 times 300K, which is going to give us 300K. So in order for us now to find the value of K, we can simplify first this side, working with your exponents. Remember, you can multiply the numbers together. 2 times 1, which is 2. Whenever you're dealing with the bases, which are the same, you add the exponents in this case. So we add 5 plus -3. So if we add 5 plus -3, that is going to be 5 minus 3, which is 2. So that is going to be times 10 to the exponent of 2 is equal to 300K. Since we are simplifying, we can just reduce, we can just write in ordinary form 10 to the power of 2, that is 200, that is 100, then times 2, which is going to be 200 is equal to 300K. So we can divide by 300 both sides in this case to determine the value of K. So from this part, if we are to simplify, K at the end was going to give us what? 2 zeros cancels. We remain with 2/3. So that is the question to calculate the value of what? The value of K. So you simply need to substitute your information, apply your laws of exponents where it is needed, multiplying the bases which are the same, you add the powers, but try to have it in ordinary form since the other number here is in ordinary form. So that is the value of K that you are given. And now you're asked to calculate P if given this. All right. If you take a closer, we are supposed to substitute the value of K that we obtained. We obtained in this case that our K is 2/3. We are supposed to substitute this value of K before so that we can calculate for the given information. So how are we going to substitute or to replace a fraction? Remember, I explained when you are given a constant, which is a fraction, and you are supposed to substitute that, you just write the 2 to the numerator, the 3 to the denominator. So P in this case is going to be given as 2 times T in the numerator. So it's going to be 2T/3 times V. So it's going to be 3V like this. So that's how you substitute a fraction. In this case, the numerator multiplies the numerator, denominator to the denominator. So meaning to say we can substitute our values. We are given the value of T in this case, which is 300. So that is 300/3V. That is 3 times the value of V, which is 0, that's 0,0025 like this. All right. So this is paper 2. You can simply evaluate everything at once, everything on your calculator at once. So this was going to give us something like 80,000. So you're going to obtain 80,000. Or if you want, you can write it in a standard form as given before. P was given in standard form. So you can even write it in standard form if you want. That was going to be between 1 and 10. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's going to be 8,000 and so on, which is simply 8 in this case times 10 to the power of what? Times 10 to the power of 4. So that is how we are supposed to at least attempt. So all we just need is to revise as much questions as we can as we are preparing for the exams ahead of time.